Hi, welcome to the webinar series. Just wanted to go through some housekeeping stuff before we continue with the webinar. Just want to remind all listeners that this is a listen-only mode webinar. We will be taking questions as we present this, so do type in your questions in the questions panel down below. There'll be 3 short survey questions at the end. We would really appreciate if you can fill these out. It helps us improve your experience as we deliver more webinars. The recording will be sent to you after the event, and do sign up for the SaaS Insights email updates. We do send out AWS news, events, and resources around SaaS. And also in the resource section, you will have a copy to the study that we'll be talking about today. Once again, this is the behind the scenes of SAS Success Series webinar, and today is going to be the first of many. This particular series is about maximizing your success in planning, building SaaS on AWS. We're going to be going through a great series with a great series of webinars with guest speakers joining us. Don't forget to sign up for the next session, which is about aligning your organization structure to maximize your SaaS success. The webinar series today is the business opportunity for your organization to build SaaS. I am Akshay Patel. I'm a business lead within the SaaS Factory team. Joining me today are 2 great speakers. David, welcome to the webinar series.
Thanks so much for having me, Akshay. David Park here, a senior consultant within Forrester and also one of Forrester's practice leads. So very excited to be here talking about the opportunity for partners on building SaaS on AWS today.
Yeah, thanks, David. And Prem also joining us from Druva. Hey, Prem, how are you?
Hey, Akshay, doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm Prem Ananthakrishnan. I've been with Druva for almost 6 years. Really excited to be here and share our journey with SaaS transformation.
Yeah, thanks. Really excited to have you guys on. So we have a great agenda. We're going to be talking about why SaaS. David's going to be taking us through the Forrester study on the partner value of building SaaS. And Prem's going to be taking us through Druva's success story. So we're quite excited. So we get a lot of questions about why SaaS. And so for us, SaaS is a growth model. And when we talk about growth, this is about how you are able to find new revenues by going after new customers and new segments, how you're able to do this in an agile manner where you're able to change and really move quickly with the pace of time, depending on what your customers are asking you for or what external events like COVID presents to you. It's about cost optimization. How do you deliver continuously deliver the value to your customers in the way you design your SaaS solutions, as well as operate your SaaS solutions. And obviously, this is continuously delivering value for your customers. So interestingly, Forrester did a study across 2,457 customers, and their question was, what are your digital transformation strategies? And so as you can see, SaaS is the #1 strategy, and this is probably one of the fastest growing strategies that we're seeing across all industries, no matter what size these industries are. Often there's a business dilemma. A lot of customers ask us, how should I build my SaaS solution? They ask us, what is it going to cost? And how do they grow revenue? And so we're going to be looking at these through this webinar series, and are definitely important questions to ask, and we'll look at how others have been successful in solving these problems. What I did want to point out is not all journeys are the same. So depending on where you are as an organization and depending on where your solutions are, whether it's a monolithic on-prem, whether it's lifted and shifted as a managed service in your own data centers or in the cloud, the transition to moving to SaaS depends on your strategies. Choosing the right technologies depends on what business outcomes you're looking for, and therefore there are many different models in how you would do this, and you can find a lot of resources within the SaaS Factory resources, and also we're happy to help you with any of these. And there is what is different about our program is we bring a lot of experience. And so this quote is really well said, which is, there is no compression algorithm for experience. And this is what this team brings, and we will look at the examples that Forrester talks about in how they conducted studies across different SaaS providers on AWS. So David, take us through what you found.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Akshay. All right, so I just want to take a couple moments now to talk through some insights from a recent exciting study that Forrester published in tandem with AWS, looking at the partner opportunity for building SaaS on AWS. Let's take a look here. Oh, sorry about that. Let's go back. All right, so before we get into some of the results, right, and you saw a couple snapshots of some of the slides earlier there, but really the idea is I want to first talk about how we ran this process and this study, just so that you're clear on how we attained some of that data and how that's relevant to the financial model that we ultimately created. So for any one of these studies, right, you may have heard them in the marketplace that they're called total economic impact studies. What we do is essentially a multi-step process whereby we first talk to AWS, and we ascertain all of the data points and all of the relevant pieces of information that AWS can compose on what it means to be a SaaS partner, right, and what benefits a SaaS partner might experience from AWS's perspective, right? That doesn't impact our analysis, although it does give us some lens as to what types of questions we should ask when we eventually do interview our partners. So if you look at that second step there, partner interviews, what's important to recognize here is that all the data for this study is direct empirical evidence from ISV partners that we speak to, or excuse me, SaaS builders that we speak to. And so in this case, we spoke to 5 different SaaS companies, and we'll go over what some of their high-level characteristics are over the next slide. But after we finish interviewing them, we create what's called a composite SaaS organization. And this organization is really reflective of the 5 different companies that we interviewed, and it's used to effectively demonstrate a sort of a peer financial model that a prospective SaaS company could then compare themselves to. Okay, and then the rest of the steps after this are pretty self-explanatory, right? We create that financial model from that composite organization, and then from that we write the case study. All right. So in this case, I want to go over some of those characteristics for a composite organization. We spoke to 5 companies, as I mentioned, and sort of the underlying characteristics were there were some companies that were born in the cloud, sort of native SaaS companies, and there were others that were legacy software companies that were then looking to bring their application over to the cloud, migrate it. And so, given sort of the diversity of use cases there, we decided to cover both in this study, right? And so this composite organization is really a legacy on-premises software company looking to build an adjacent version of its existing application on SaaS, right? While at the same time leveraging some of the benefits from a technology perspective that AWS offered to really take their application to a more cloud-native state. Now, on the right-hand side here, you'll see a couple of interesting characteristics for this composite organization. Now, like I mentioned, these are reflective of the characteristics of the 5 companies that we interviewed. But this isn't something where you have to have these exact characteristics, right? You input your own numbers, when you're evaluating this part of your study, and you should get your own results as well. But in this case, you have 6% to 4% monthly lead growth, a 25% win rate on any opportunities that they pursued, $45 average per user licensing, and then an average contract value of $86,400 per year, or excuse me, per customer. All right, so moving on to some of the high-level results. So this financial model is based off of a 3-year analysis, and over 3 years, what we found was that partners had achieved an ROI of 70% on their SaaS and AWS investment. Gross profits over 3 years of 15 million. Now, this is kind of similar to what I was saying earlier, where it's going to depend on the size of the organization, what type of application they're taking to market, and so on and so forth. But this was sort of an average from the data set that we evaluated. And then finally, a payback of 18 months, or about 1.5 years. All right, so before we get into some of the P&L numbers and some of the interesting metrics that came around this, I want to discuss some of the challenges that took place when we were asking some of these SaaS companies about some of their pain points when taking SaaS to market, when trying to switch from a legacy on-premises application to eventually a fully cloud migrated application where they could distribute their application to a global customer base. And so that's exactly one of the challenges, right? Serving that global customer base, right? Whether it's regional or in many cases across different continents as well, meeting customer demand for flexible SaaS applications as well. And so, as you know, a lot of customers are now adopting SaaS as well. I mean, it's kind of been the trend over the last decade or so. And there's a lot of complexity, right? In the sense that there's hybrid environments where customers have some applications on premises, and then there's others on the cloud, and they want to make sure that the providers that they're looking for are able to accommodate that type of flexibility. And then finally, right, given sort of the challenges on being on a legacy on-premises environment and serving a distributed customer base, right, are the challenges of achieving time and cost efficiencies. So there's a great quote on the right-hand side here from a partner saying 5 years ago, it would have taken us 5 to 6 hours to complete our global deployment. Now that we've switched over to containers, so this is in reference to the Elastic Container Service that AWS offers, and bundle their entire infrastructure, we're able to cut this time down to about an hour. So this really encapsulates how some of these partners were able to leverage some native AWS technologies to achieve both the time and cost efficiencies and simultaneously serve that distributed global customer base. Right. So now that we've looked at some of those challenges, so here are some of the high-level results, right? And we'll go over what this means in terms of numbers and cents pretty soon. But just at a high level here, all ISVs had shortened their time to market by leveraging any number of tools that AWS offered to the market, right? And so that could have been ECS, Elastic Container Service, simple storage solutions, Lambda, SageMaker. There's a number of different tools, Dynamo database, for example, that these SaaS companies were using sort of on a table stakes basis to help abstract the infrastructure component of taking their applications to market. And so, what that did was really solve for a lot of the technical challenges that a lot of these partners were experiencing in serving that global distributed customer base, where they have different infrastructure settings and different unique idiosyncrasies in terms of what types of servers they're using, things like that were all sort of extracted by using AWS. So we have that shortened time to market, high profit margins, and significant customer growth, which we'll get to a little bit later, and then finally streamlined operations. And encapsulating that, there's a great quote here that's saying, by leveraging AWS, we picked up a sales force of more than 10,000 people. Now, I'd have to say that close to 70% of our opportunities have actively engaged AWS in some way, shape, or form. And this is really talking to not just being able to take that application to market more quickly, but also being able to benefit from AWS co-sell, co-marketing, joint sales opportunities and leads, and being able to leverage the entire AWS sales and marketing engine to really grow their opportunity pipeline and ultimately close more deals. Great, so here are some of our most salient year 3 profitability metrics. And I think these are really eye-opening, right, in terms of seeing what kind of profitability potential you can get from building a SaaS business. Probably the most interesting one for me here is the gross margin, which is 70%. So this is saying, after taking into account all the different customer onboarding costs, any data hosting costs, cloud consumption costs that a partner would need to pay out for hosting its solution and delivering its solution to a global customer base, they're still left with 70% minus those, COGS, if you will. And then even if you take out the operational expenses from their investments, so if you, all the R&D investments, marketing, their sales force, customer service and whatnot, you're still only reducing that margin from 70% to 41%. And so this is, after everything is said and done, these partners are taking away 41% operating margin on their SaaS business, which is actually, quite remarkable. And then finally, on a monthly recurring revenue basis, right? And this is really just more illustrative to what a potential SaaS partner could be receiving on a monthly basis. Obviously, it's going to depend on what size you are as a company. But across this composite organization, what we saw was that 1.8 million on a monthly recurring revenue basis was typical. And we talk about some of the financial KPIs, but there's also business KPIs that come from this investment as well. And these are really linked to how some of these SaaS companies were leveraging technology and native AWS technology to their advantage to help deploy these applications out to the market. So the first one here is 30% to 50% reduced time to development for minimum viable product. And so this is really speaking to the idea that I was referring to earlier, where these organizations are no longer having to deal with the lowest level of abstraction when it comes to application, right? So when they're not dealing with the infrastructure layer anymore, right? So anything that has to do with data, storage, compute, it's all handled by AWS, right? By virtue of a number of different AWS tools. And so by doing that, they're able to reduce the time to develop that application from the get-go by up to 50%. Now, you also have up to 69 to 77% reduction in time to launch in net new markets. And this is really speaking to AWS's global scale and reach across each of the major continents, and all of the different data centers it has, and the ability to integrate different applications within its AWS environment, such that these SaaS companies are no longer having to do custom integrations for each company. They're able to leverage that global sort of data center presence that AWS has to access their customers' data more quickly. And then finally, you have over 95% reduced time to customer usage. So there were a couple of SaaS companies that referenced specific tools such as SageMaker or Lambda that leverage machine learning modules to help really accelerate time to customer usage. So this is really speaking to completing that whole application lifecycle, where you're not only creating the application and developing it, but now you're taking it to market with the help of AWS. And then finally, you're helping customers use that application more quickly by using sort of pre-coded machine learning modules with tools like SageMaker. All right. And then there's a great quote on the bottom here that really encapsulates all of these tools. So one SaaS builder said, "We chose AWS because amongst all the cloud providers, AWS not only had the broadest feature set across all tools, but also the greatest depth of functionality." And this specific SaaS builder used upwards of 30 AWS services. Great. So that's all I have for you today. I'm going to pass it over to Prem here.
Thank you, David.
So I'll introduce Prem. Sorry about that. We'll take a small break so we can cut it. David, thank you very much for the insights on the study. I think it was quite valuable. For those who joined late in the resource, there is a link to the study, so do download it. Also sign up for the insights email to get all more updates. But I think, Prem, we're really excited to have you. You're a very successful SaaS story on AWS. Tell us about your journey. Tell us about your story.
Absolutely. First of all, once again, really excited to be here and talk about Druva's SaaS transformation journey. And let me start off by telling you a little bit about Druva. We are a market-leading SaaS company that provides data protection and management services to our customers. Our SaaS platform helps enterprises achieve business continuity, data governance, and cyber resilience across a variety of their enterprise applications, like Microsoft 365 data center workloads or even endpoints. Druva has over 4,000 customers who use our platform to protect and recover their data from various forms of disasters or various data loss scenarios like ransomware attacks. Our customers also use our platform to meet their e-discovery or data compliance obligations. If you look at our client base, it ranges from small to medium-sized businesses, going all the way to some of the Fortune 500 type companies that you see on this slide. When you look at Druva's journey and look at that 10 years ago, we used to build and sell premises-based software like many other organizations. From that, we had first-hand experience seeing some of the challenges that our customers were facing when it came to maintaining software, managing complex infrastructure, dealing with complicated application stacks and the operational overhead associated with that. There we saw kind of an opportunity to go and solve these customer problems, while at the same time realize competitive advantage by building a SaaS platform. So we decided to transform ourselves into a SaaS company. One key question that we were faced with back then was whether we should build and develop our service on a private cloud or whether we should leverage the public cloud. And after a lot of careful consideration and deliberation, we looked at multiple factors and decided to go with the public cloud, specifically AWS. And there were multiple reasons behind that, starting with development agility. One of the key goals we had was to get to MVP, or minimum viable product, within a span of 12 months. And once we got there, we wanted to iterate very quickly using well-known CI/CD practices to deliver value for our customers with velocity. We wanted to make sure that our developers were spending time writing code and instantly deploying applications, as opposed to setting up infrastructure, test and development environments, or managing thousands of servers. AWS gave us the appropriate tool chains, the APIs, and the mechanisms to be able to develop really fast and get to market. The other aspect was also the maturity of the technology. This included everything from various classes of storage like S3 and Glacier, but also compute and distributed database like DynamoDB, which was critical for us to build our application. But it wasn't just the services breadth, it was also the quality of those services, the necessary durability and security that was required for us to build a world-class service for our customers. S3 gave us 11 nines of durability. On the security side, we had a very strong security model with the AWS services, including identity and access management, data encryption modules, and a variety of service classes. On the service level agreement, our goal was to offer a very solid global uptime, and the ability for us to achieve that with AWS out of the box was really one of the compelling reasons for us to choose the AWS platform. The other aspect here was scale. As David mentioned earlier, right, one of the key reasons you look at an infrastructure as a service platform is to get that global reach very quickly. We had customers in various parts of the world. It was really important for us to get that global reach without having to do a lot of heavy lifting. With AWS, we were able to launch our product in 8+ regions instantly at that time back then, and today we support this on over 16 regions globally. And scale was much more than that. We also had to think about, when you're a small startup, you're always thinking about optimizing your costs. So the ability for us to scale our services elastically up or down based on demand was really attractive. From that, if you think about it from a startup perspective, if you don't have the appropriate adoption scale or customers, and maybe you haven't even achieved product market fit yet, in that case, you want to keep your services dialed down or shut down and then bring them up only when needed. You can also burst up when there is a need or demand. The ability for us to do that on top of AWS was one of the key reasons we chose this platform. And finally, industry leadership. AWS was the market leader even back then when it came to infrastructure as a service. This meant it was easy to find the right skill set, developers who really had the appropriate skills to build on the AWS toolchains. Engineers were super excited to learn this technology and develop their own careers on top of AWS platforms. So it gave us access to those skills, but also we worked with AWS as a design partner. We were looking for somebody that would help co-develop, co-create solutions for our customers as we built out a world-class service. And we found that in AWS. And if you look at the last few years, there are great examples of this with Snowball Edge and more recently S3 Object Lambda. 10 years later, now let's look at the return on investment on this whole SaaS journey. And there are some key metrics that really stand out for us. We have over 4,000 customers today using our service globally across 16 regions. We manage over 200 petabytes of data for these customers. And this data is growing at 50% year over year, which proves our ability to scale. We've been able to consistently meet and deliver more than 99.5% uptime for our customers, meeting our service level agreements. On the business or profitability metrics, we have grown to over 100 million in ARR, which we announced publicly a couple of years ago, and we've seen a healthy gross margin of north of 70%. So all great metrics, and on top of this, you've seen we've been able to grow along with AWS as we have leveraged multiple services, security certifications, and also we've built a world-class service which can actually meet our customers' goals around data recovery, data compliance, and governance. And as we went through this journey, there were several learnings for us. As Akshay mentioned earlier, there is no compression algorithm for experience. And we had to really change everything from not just from a technology perspective, but also from a process and from a culture standpoint. To start with, we had to embrace SaaS as a business model, not just a delivery mechanism. This meant that we had to rethink and reinvent the ways we built, operated, and sold our solutions to customers. On the product side, we developed a multi-tenant microservices-based architecture that would take advantage of the cloud economics and scale infinitely. We knew that if we had to operate on the public cloud, we had to understand the underlying costs and manage that very efficiently. For this, we had to build in telemetry, build in additional automation and tuning capabilities. But on top of that, we also had to instrument process through which we could actually operationalize and model out our COGS, and we consistently monitor our COGS and costs and optimize that as our services scaled to the next levels. We built a 24/7 cloud and security operations team that could maintain the uptime and ensure reliable operations at scale. We changed our pricing model. We went from a perpetual pricing to subscription pricing to begin with. And then we went even beyond that and disrupted our market space with the first ever consumption-based pricing model. This is how we used pricing as a weapon to disrupt our space and really capitalize the underlying SaaS unit economics to achieve that. On the go-to-market front, we invested in cloud-friendly channel partners. These were channel partners who not only had the skills about the public cloud in terms of design and consulting, but also implementation experience. We worked with them to help customers make that cloud journey. We also partnered with AWS to explore new ways to acquire customers through channels like Marketplace. In fact, we were one of the first early design partners for multiple marketplace services along with AWS. Now, if you put this all together, let's take an example of how this has benefited our customers. And there are many such examples that we could talk about in the end. Let's start with Katz Media, who's a pretty large media representation company in the United States. Like many of our customers, they were burdened with the cost and complexity of their legacy backup infrastructure. They decided to go down the SaaS path and replaced their legacy solution with Druva's SaaS platform. This saved them over 60% on hardware and software maintenance costs and well north of 50% on administrative overhead. On top of that, Katz was able to consolidate multiple budgets, backup budgets, archival budgets, and DR into a single solution, and also accelerate their cloud migration journey even during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our pricing model allowed them to start small, pay only for what they consume, and then ramp slowly into the solution set. This way, they could also keep their employees focused and productive while they were coming up to speed on newer technologies. From a Druva perspective, this was super beneficial to kind of land and expand, land a customer with something that was really valuable, compelling for them as they went through their digital transformation journey. And then over time, we have expanded our presence with Katz with multiple products and multiple solutions. So great success story there in terms of how the SaaS platform was not just a journey for us, but how it actually helped our customers' journey. So with that, I'll pass it back to Akshay.
Prem, thank you so much. It's really amazing to see where you guys have come from and what you've built along the years. what's really amazing how your team has also been able to focus on the customer experience. Really great story, and really appreciate you sharing that with all of us today. So, one of the key takeaways is when you are looking to build your SaaS solution, it's the differentiated technology is definitely the reason you may choose why and who and where. But I think together with that is the thought leadership part of it. The support that you get from AWS in building out your solution, both on the business side as well as the technology side. But it's also the go-to-market marketplace and how Druva found that success and how others are finding success. So if you look at this particular example of Druva as well as the Forrester study, I think this gives you a really good example and stories from various other builders on their journey and their experience. Definitely different journeys, different experiences, but a lot you can get out of with partnering with AWS. So this is the end of our webinar today. Really appreciate you listening to our stories. Don't forget the next webinar coming up. Again, it's about organization structure on how to maximize SaaS on AWS. So do sign up for that. We do also have for you today some resources and links. So when you do receive the email after this webinar, do check out the various resources. Again, sign up for the subscription model for the emails and subscribe to those, and also download the Forrester study. I think there's a lot you can benefit from by looking at the business case and how David and the Forrester team have built that out. And thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you soon.